I've spent the past 8 years at university and now I'm on the final year of my third degree, studying at med school to become a doctor. And I've had a lot of regrets and things I wish I knew before I started that would have massively improved my time at university. So I'll go through 10 things I wish I knew for university that can help you make the most out of your time. And this advice is useful even if you've been at uni for a while, so I still recommend watching if that's your situation. So the first point is something I've not seen anybody else mention, maybe because it sounds like a bad thing to do, and that's making sure to not trust what people say. And let me explain. At university, you'll definitely end up asking other people how much they're studying, and 99% of the time at med school, people say they aren't studying that much. But whenever you see them or see their posts on social media, they're always at the library studying. People usually underplay just how much they get done, and I don't know if it's because it's more of a competitive environment or because they're just a bit shy to say the truth. So take what people say with a pinch of salt, or just listen to the few friends you can trust so that you don't base how much you study purely on what other people say, because do that and you'll end up falling behind. And now for the next point. At the start of uni, you might feel overwhelmed because you'll hear about hundreds of societies to join or the amount of lectures and coursework you have, so you don't know where to start. But the thing is, you'll have at least 3 years at university, and typically the earlier years are more relaxed than the final years. And what I'd recommend to have the best experience at university is to shift your balance. Now in the first point I said don't base how much you study on other people, and that's true. But at the same time, this doesn't mean that you should study all day every day from the day you start uni, because you'll have at least 3 years and you don't want to burn out so early on. So to set up a good uni experience, use the first few weeks and even few months to get to know people, try new things with different societies, and don't study too much, because it's in these weeks where people start forming friend groups, and after this it does get harder to join friend groups. And by trying a load of different things, you'll be more likely to find your group of people. These are the people you're going to spend the next few years with, so you don't want to risk missing out on finding them just because you want to get a few weeks of studying ahead, even though first year probably isn't worth that much. But obviously, it's not a good idea to just socialize for the whole of your first year and only do a small amount of work. And that leads on to the next point. So at med school, people tend to start putting in more effort for projects and publications towards the final year to build on their portfolio. But since everyone's doing this, it doesn't differentiate you that much, and it adds quite a lot of stress trying to find the right academic tutor or trying to cram in multiple projects alongside studying for exams. So what you should do early on is try to get an academic edge. But this isn't about trying to do multiple projects or even anything big from the start. It's about putting your foot in the door so that when you get to your later years, you have the right network to work on projects. And to do this, you could contact one of your professors that teach a subject you enjoy and ask them early on for any small projects you might be able to take part in. This won't take much of your time, but it helps you build a good relationship with an academic so that you're much more prepared in the later years from just a little bit of active input, putting you ahead of the other students and taking off a lot of the stress that happens in the later years where people rush to get more done. And now for the next point, it builds on this idea of getting ahead, and from what I said, it's just a little bit more active input that helps you do this. Because I don't think it's particularly difficult to get ahead of others, and even med school in general isn't too hard if you do the right things. And when you think about the students that do well and those that don't, they usually have the same targets, but the key difference between them is having the right systems. And what does this mean? The system you have is the process you take to accomplish your goals, and a good system helps you do this as well as possible and genuinely makes the difference between spending 8 hours a day of studying compared to just 2 hours and learning the exact same amount. For me, the most important systems are for time management and for studying, because at uni you have a lot more freedom, making it easy to take a backseat and fall behind. So you want to keep a good balance for the different parts of your life to minimize how much time you waste. So I'll link my videos to both of those systems in the description. The thing you need to be aware of though is that some systems that work for others might not work for you, so try a few different things and see what sticks. It's good to experiment with these systems early on at university because you'll have the luxury to do it before your workload gets too intense. And that leads to the next short point of where you can find the right systems, and to add to this, where you can find the right resources. Your university is very likely to get you to buy textbooks, but that's usually because the authors of those textbooks are your professors. But really, everything you need to learn are on your lecture slides and online. If I made it through my past 2 degrees and now to my final year of med school where 99% of my learning was from using the internet, I'm sure you can do the same. Whatever your course is, just Google the best resources for your degree and something will come up. Or ask on your course group chats or friends what they're using. And the only time I bought something online was for a question bank for just £30, which every UK med student does because it's all we need. Otherwise, I just used free resources. I've never bought a textbook at uni and thought it was a good use of money, so just trust me and don't buy them either. But now an issue is that sometimes you'll have very specific problems at university, whether that's some course you're unsure about or having particularly difficult lectures for a certain module, leaving you confused on how to go about it. And for these situations, the best thing you can can do is get the right guidance from the right people. At my med school, we have a system where we have 2 parents, and these are 2 students in the year above, so they've just gone through exactly what I'm going through right now. And honestly, the number of questions I've asked them and the amount of advice they've given me is something I can't even begin to explain. It's advice that I couldn't have gotten anywhere else. Whether that was which modules and lectures to focus on for exams, how much effort I really need to put in for coursework, or even just reassurance. They've saved me a lot of stress and time because they told me everything I had to know. So definitely do the same for your course, and when you're in your second year, give back by helping the year below you. And now I have a problem that high achieving students have that you'll probably relate to. So what I noticed was that people that generally perform well aren't used to being bad at things, which makes sense. But a problem is, it makes them more likely to only focus on their strengths as a way to ignore their weaknesses. But we both know that you can't just ignore the things you're bad at. Ignoring a whole subject because it's difficult probably isn't a good idea. But this isn't limited to just subjects, but to wider skills. And at university, one of the best things to develop yourself as a person is to work on your weaknesses. Whether that's spending an extra hour on a subject you're bad at and getting help from a friend, or even working on your public speaking skills and working with other people. University is the best time to work on these things because you'll have a good network of people to learn from and improve with, making it the best environment you'd have for growth. Basically, every university has societies for the things I've mentioned, or even student-led study support sessions, so make use of them. And for the next point, something you'd notice straight away with university is just how much bigger it is compared with school. And with that many more students has its benefits and drawbacks. It's good for meeting the right group of people that you'd fit in with, but our problem is that it's a lot more competition than you'd have experienced before. And it's to a point where it's unavoidable because you might be competing for distinctions or merits or for certain awards. So to take more control over this, you should instead make sure to have healthy competition and accountability. It's somewhat indirect, but what I do with a few friends is that we make sure to keep up to date with each other in terms of how much we get done. Whether that's aiming to get a certain number of questions or topics on a day, or making sure to apply to certain opportunities to stand out. It's a good form of accountability to have with a friend because they won't be toxic if they're actually your friend. And it acts as a way for you to both push each other forwards and make sure you're consistent with the effort you put into uni. And now, as someone who's done 2 degrees already and now being on my final year of med school, I can honestly say that all of it went by really fast. The past 8 years didn't feel that long, and I can clearly remember back to the first few days of uni. And because it goes by so fast, it's really important for you to make sure you enjoy it, because after this, you're most likely going to start working, and that's going to be a completely different lifestyle to uni, and probably not in a good way. So make sure you enjoy the freedom you have and have a good time. Meet good people, make good memories, and work on yourself so that you won't have any regrets. University really does open up your life. You'll meet a lot more people than you'd have met at school, all from different parts of the world. And with this many people, a good bunch of them will be very intelligent, to a point where you'll actually wonder how they think so fast. And it's going to make you feel quite behind compared to them, especially when it comes to competing for higher grades. So in this video here, I talk about the 6 stages of thinking from beginner to genius, and how you can reach the highest level to think 3 times faster. So click the video to learn more.